Welcome to Interesting Enough. He is Trey. I am Nolan. Thank you guys so much for joining us once again. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you. Of course, we're on Apple, Spotify, all that good stuff. Check us out on social media. We got a lot of content coming up for you guys. Trey, man, what's going on? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great, man. Just watching some basketball, you know what I'm saying? NFL's is in the full swing of things. So, hey, it's the best time of the year, like I always say. Football, basketball, can't beat it.
Yeah, this is the best time. Going into the winters, the holidays. Trey, I was just thinking about it. We got to do a holiday draft at some point. We got to do a holiday draft. I've been kind of thinking about it. I've been seeing drafts about, holiday music, holidays. Maybe when we do holiday sports movies, because I saw movies. So I don't know if we want to do regular movies or not, but that's something I just wanted to throw it out there. We gotta brainstorm that what we want to do for the draft, because we always get good content with that. We could drop a graphic, but anyway, we got a lot to get into. We're going to talk about the in-season tournament. Of course, we're going to talk about the NFL season as it comes down to the wire, so we'll get to some of that in a minute. But, Trey, we got to talk about the main thing that I feel like that's been in the sports news that's normally not, and that's baseball. And it's not actually anything to do with what's happening on the baseball field, because it's not baseball season, for those who don't know. Shohei Ohtani. I'm sure even if you don't know who that is, you know who it is now because of his contract. He got the 10-year contract. $700 million. I mean, that number is astronomical. Just to fill people in, Trey, and this is just for the audience, that a lot of people that listen to us probably don't even watch baseball. Shohei Ohtani is doing something special in baseball that doesn't exist, where he's pitching and he's hitting. So if you see that number and you're thinking that's astronomical, which most baseball contracts are, it's partly the reason because of that. So he's not going to be pitching. He's hurt pitching right now, so he won't be pitching until 2025, but he's still a great hitter. So that's just a little details to fill you in, but it doesn't really matter. You see 10 years, $700 million. Trey, what's your first thought?
Man, I should have went and been a baseball player. I didn't even realize they get paid like this. Now, I do have one thing I want to add. He's really backloading this contract.
Oh, and, I was going to get there. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm just oh, that kind of worries me. I'm
and, Trey, let me just fill people in on that, on what's going on, so they know. So, Shohei Ohtani got a 10-year contract, $700 million. I know most people are thinking he's going to get $70 million a year. No. So apparently Shohei Ohtani decided, and I'm trying to make this not as complicated as possible. He decided to essentially get paid $2 million every single year for the 10 years. And then get the rest of the $680 million after that over a certain, year stretch. So basically he deferred $680 million of his contract, which is a crazy amount of money to do. And he's only going to be making $2 million per year. Now, to the average person, $2 million per year is great. We take that all day. But for a baseball player, a professional athlete, that seems very low. The important thing to note is, one, baseball doesn't have a salary cap like most sports. So he doesn't really have to do it. However, it does give his team flexibility to sign other guys so they can pay other players and they can continue to be a great team. So that is one. And the second thing is, he won't be the first person that's ever deferred contracts. We've seen Bobby Bonilla do it. Trey, you know about Bobby Bonilla Day. Ken Griffey Jr. has done it. So guys that are looking to do that. So this is a big deal. It's not only the biggest contract ever, but he's one of the biggest deferments ever. So anyway, Trey, go ahead. I just wanted to fill people in on that.
No, thank you for doing that. And I don't think I would do it. We've never seen a sports franchise, go bankrupt or something of that nature. But I would just be scared that if I did that, this franchise is going to lose $690 million that I'm just not going to get. You know what I mean?
But I mean, to be honest with you, you made the point. There's no risk for involved. You're getting your money regardless. And let's put in perspective. If he's living a pretty much a low profile life anyway, and from all accounts from Shohei Ohtani, he seems to invest a lot in his body. He's kind of like LeBron in that way. So he's really cutting edge and stuff. And he's really just all about ball. He's not out here doing a bunch of he does commercials and stuff. He's making endorsement money off of New Balance and all these other endorsements. And he's an international superstar. So he's making money and he cares about winning. And the Dodgers are already, for people that don't watch baseball, they're already a glorified all-star team as it is. They're like the Warriors and adding Kevin Durant. This is what this is in comparison. So he wants to put in a better position for his legacy to win championships, and that's what's going to be most important. And you're going to get your money on the back end. Trey, even if you had reservations about a team not getting your money, the one team that we know is not going bankrupt is the Dodgers with Magic Johnson. Okay, we know that for sure. So I think it's a low risk.
I think so too, but like, I guess my only concern is still the idea that $680 million I'm not getting, that's not guaranteed until like the end of 10 years. That's just a scary proposition, man.
I will say this though, and I don't know how exactly it works taxes wise, but we haven't even thought about this, Trey. Because he's getting taxed so much in California, he can just get that $2 million tax instead of the bigger contract tax, right?
But see, at least I know from the NBA, you're taxed on where you're playing at. That's the weird thing. So like, let's say I had a game in Florida. Since I technically worked in Florida that day, I would get taxed Florida rates. And if I played in Atlanta, I would get taxed Georgia rates. So you have to keep that in mind as well.
Okay, so that's fair. So baseball's got 162 games, so you got 81 of your games in LA. So half of your games are going to be that tax. But let's put in perspective. Where's he going to get taxed when he's not playing it? What if because he's not, let's say he doesn't play the full 10 years, he retires, and he's still getting that, he's going to be getting that money when he's retired. He could just move to Florida, move to somewhere else to not get taxed, right? And then just get more majority of that money. I don't know if that's how that works. Somebody financially would have to fill me in on that. But like, if it works that way, I think this is a steal. And
I can tell.
And yeah, and one thing I do want to point out, Trey, which I'm curious what you think about this in terms of going forward. So when we watch the other sports that we pay attention to for the most part, so basketball and football, a lot of these contract negotiations are public, right? Like, so we see teams throw out numbers and their feeler numbers. And what happens is those numbers kind of set your market in a way. And I know you didn't pay attention to this too much, Trey, but there was a rumor that he was going to go to the Blue Jays, Toronto Blue Jays. They have a big international market, big Japanese market, stuff like that. Shohei Ohtani kept the negotiations between any team that he talked to so private that no actual number got reported or leaked. And I think that was huge because if a number got leaked, let's say he met with the Yankees and it got leaked that the Yankees offered him $500 million, $550, or let's say $500 million. Automatically, every other team going forward is going to assume that his value is around that number. But because he kept it private, no one actually knows his value. So the only way you can tell me your value is what is my value to you. So if I meet with this team, the Dodgers, you tell me what is my value to you. You can't base it off of what you heard because you haven't heard anything. And I think that's something that other athletes should take a look at. And I know it's almost impossible in some of these other sports, basketball, football, with the amount of coverage that free agency gets. But that's something that people should think of.
I say think about it, but listen, man, I'm all for getting my money right now. Like, let's say we play the lottery. Yes, everybody knows if you play Powerball, you can get more money if you tell them you want your money in a 20-year interval, like you want to over a 20-year period, as opposed to getting all at once. I don't want to take the risk. I'm risk averse. Give me my money right now.
Okay, but can I let me throw a wrench in the scenario. One,
all right, go for it.
One wrench is you're already $1 million athlete. So you've made millions of dollars before this point. So you've already been in a different tax bracket and used to a different lifestyle.
No, right? this is a different kind of wealth that we're talking about. But
right. So you've been eating sashimi. You're right. That's what you've been eating. So, two, you're making millions of dollars off of the field with endorsements and everything else. I don't know what your number would be, but I'm sure it's more than $2 million per year that you're getting off of all these endorsements. Wouldn't you feel a little bit differently?
Okay, let's say I'm making $3 million a year plus an extra $4 million. So like $7 million altogether when we do endorsements.
Yeah, let's say that. Okay. Let's add it up, because let's say even $10 million a year for both total. Let's say that number. So you're making $10 million a year. And I know you're seeing the big figure, but what about when you're retired and maybe you don't have anything to do? You've got this constant check coming in for another 10, 15 years of your life.
Yeah, but I'm not, listen, at the end of the day, I see what you're saying, but let's say for whatever reason, the Dodgers just don't have that money. Or for whatever reason, let's just say they get like a terrible owner. We've seen terrible owners in other sports, and the owner just says, you know what, I just don't want to pay this.
Well, they can't do that. There's a contract.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, I don't want to push my luck is what I'm getting at.
I
think I will win the case, but I don't want to push my luck like that.
I just think it's almost impossible to not. I know what you mean. You just get the money now, right? Like you don't want to. You can avoid any problems. I just think it's really not. There's not a scenario where there's going to be any problems. I mean, this is a legal document. Like even if the owner doesn't want to pay the money, somebody has to. Somebody has to pay you that money. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. Somebody has to pay you that money. I like it. But what do you think about the whole thing about keeping it private? Don't you think that's something that teams should use going forward, or like players? Shouldn't you think about that? Because he created his own value. That's huge.
I mean, it's not gonna work. I mean, he did create his own value, but like most people are not gonna be able to keep that private. Their agent or their friends, somebody's gonna leak it. So like, I think you should try to do that. But I think most teams probably do try to do that. But guess what? It just gets leaked. That's just how these things work.
But here's what you can do, and I guess it's a different perspective. If you have to be as high of a profile athlete as Shohei. So let's say like this would have to be like LeBron or something, or like Curry, right? If they ever hit free agency. I don't know if this is true, but it was like rumored Shohei may have told people like, if you do leak a number, I'm automatically taking you out of contention. Like,
Yeah,
if
but you got to be high profile, like you said, like you got
yeah,
to be LeBron, Curry, like yeah.
right. So yeah, no, sorry, you're right. This conversation is reserved for a small group of people. You're right. I'm just saying, like, wouldn't it be cool? Like that's a way you could. That's some real power. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that is some real power. So I don't know. We can talk about the Shohei Ohtani thing forever, but I think it's actually really interesting how he went about it. And I think some players should take a look at it if you're that high profile. I don't know. Most high profile players don't even, Curry doesn't get to free agency, right? Like they're always, extensions. LeBron does get to free agency, but like not really. It's got some wing stuff going on. So I think it's very interesting to see. But anyway, let's move on, Trey. Speaking of LeBron, your boy LeBron won the in-season tournament with the Lakers. The first in-season tournament. We basically predicted this was going to happen. LeBron, there was no way he wanted to get this notch on his belt to obviously have a one-up on Jordan. Jordan never won an in-season tournament. What's your overall reaction to the in-season tournament? Well, just in general, give me your thoughts about the actual championship game and LeBron, and then we'll kind of peel it back.
Oh, well, the championship game to me it was great. Like the whole playoffs. Well, I don't want to call it playoffs, but whatever you want to call it, the whole tournament was great. The players they really brought the energy. They played harder than they would just for a regular season game. So I loved it. And I think as far as LeBron winning, I think that was really important just because it kind of brought another air of legitimacy to this tournament. When you go back and you look at the history of the tournament, it's not going to be like some one off where some random player just got hot and won this tournament and nobody ever thinks about it again. It's kind of going to be like kids. They're going to grow up saying, hey, I want to try to win this tournament because I saw LeBron win this tournament. Just the same way we kind of talk about Michael Jordan and how we wanted to win NBA championships as a kid because we saw Michael Jordan do it or we at least heard about him doing it. So I think it does bring it a little bit legitimacy. But overall, like again, I love the tournament. I know Adam Silver's happy because hey, who better to win than the Lakers if you're trying to get the TV ratings? I think I read it was the highest rated regular season game outside of Christmas in the last 6 years. So it was a success all around.
Yeah, I mean, we were joking about it that the NBA was not going to let the Pacers and Pelicans be the final of the in-season tournament. That was going to be the worst nightmare for ratings. Like they was going to have LeBron or Curry, or somebody, one of the big stars in it. I would have liked to see the Pacers win just off of, like I said, despite the NBA, but it is better for the league. We can agree that LeBron won it, and it brings a certain level of prestige to it that maybe it wouldn't have. And it matters. It matters that what LeBron does when he won it, right? Like if LeBron won the tournament and then he just kind of like, hey, like, this is cool and just kind of moved on, then going forward, that's what people will treat it. But people are going to treat it seriously because you know what LeBron did? He won it. He said that he wanted to win the tournament beforehand. He went and won the tournament, and then he popped champagne as if he won the actual NBA Finals. So, but to be real, if Tyrese Haliburton wins it, and the Pacers and they're celebrating popping champagne, everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, this is like cool," but like, "Oh, cute story, cool for them because like they've never won anything." But like for a guy for like LeBron status, who's already accomplished so much in the league, championships, MVPs, whatever, and like real celebrations, he celebrated this almost to the same level. So it kind of is huge, and it's a huge win for the NBA for him to take it that seriously, and also take the celebration that seriously. So I like that part of it a lot. By the way, got to give a quick shout out to AD. I know we talk about him a lot on the podcast. 40 and 20, Trey. 40 and 20. Big boy 40 and 20. He was the best player on the court. I know LeBron won the MVP because of overall what did in all the in-season tournament games, but can we agree AD was the best player on the court? He was the best player on the court.
Oh no, game like that, finals game, whatever you want to call it. That last game, AD was the best player on the court, and he looked like he could make an argument for being the best player in the league. The issue with AD has always been how consistently are you going to be looking like this? I mean, some games he looks like the best player on the court, then other games he looks like he might not even be in the top three best players on the court. So like that's always going to be the problem with AD. He's not consistent.
Right. And I wanted to show a little love to my guy Tyrese Haliburton. Trey, I just want to point out. I know no one's going to give me my flowers on here, but we did a podcast a couple years ago, and we talked about the draft, and we talked about sleepers in the draft, and I did mention Tyrese Haliburton as one of those sleepers, and I did mention that I thought the Suns should draft Tyrese Haliburton, and they're going to look back and regret they didn't, because they could have had him and Chris Paul, and he could have been the predecessor to Chris Paul, or excuse me, the successor to Chris Paul. So just want to mention that. I did mention Tyrese Haliburton's been my guy, but you mentioned that you think he should probably be playing in a bigger market, and we were talking about that. But we both agreed about this stage was great for him and for the rest of the league to kind of see him and to see him take that superstar status. And you mentioned that he may be a superstar already because of what you see in the tournament. So like maybe expand on that.
I think, well, I just want to say one thing too. I want to digress real quick for 1 second, and then we can come back to this. I want to know your opinion about Zion Williamson, because I'm not going to let you get away with this. The reason I had to bring this up, I had to go all the way around. I had to digress because I was the one. Listen, no. We're not going to let this go. No, let me finish.
Go ahead.
I told you they did not need to pay him. Now, look what they did. I mean, Nolan, this man had a beer belly. I'm not even trying to be funny. I'm not trying to fat shame or anything, but he's legitimately fat.
Okay. I'm going to just go on record. It's still not a bad decision to pay Zion, because you can't be the team that doesn't pay Zion and he walks away and then goes to his second team and then becomes the guy that everyone thinks he was going to be. You can't have that blood on your hands. You can't. I don't care how bad it looks. You have to take that risk with Zion, because if you take this risk with Zion and you paid him this rookie extension and it doesn't work out, we are never going to blame the Pelicans for doing that. We are never. We're going to say, hey, they had to do it. This guy was so talented. You had to take the chance on him. You just have to. And I don't
guess
think
that's what you're saying, but it's not like he didn't have. It's not like he had one great year that you were leaning on. Like, no, he barely played the previous 3 years.
Well, he did have the 1 year where he played 60-something games and made the All-Star team. But I get your point. I get your point. Like 1 out of 4 years or so, it's not enough. But you have to give the guy the rookie extension and give him a chance. And by the way, as crazy as it sounds, it's still really early in Zion's career. He's been around for a while, but he still has time to turn it around. And hopefully this public shaming by Stephen A. and these guys, and I know Stephen A., for the record, I don't think he was trying to publicly shame him. He said that he was quoting other people. He has sources, whatever. But I just think that Zion, we know the situation with Zion, and we know that he's got to take care of it. And I don't know if Zion is ever going to take care of it, but we hope so. And Trey, we should also talk about this too. And I heard somebody else mention this, so I can't take credit for it. What if we're going about the Zion situation the wrong way? What if it's not a situation where it's just that he doesn't want to? Like some people have real legitimate issues with, their relationship with food.
And no, he might, but then I'm gonna say this, and this is not to sound like I'm unempathetic, but I'm paying you for basketball. I'm not paying you for everything else. And I hate to sound so heartless, but if you have other issues, that still doesn't help me when I'm the coach, when I'm the GM, when I'm the other players, and I'm trying to make money off of being a good basketball player, or being a good basketball coach or GM. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. You're right about that. I'm just saying maybe we don't know the actual problem with
I don't think we do, because no, he's obese. Like, it's not even like he's a little bit out of shape. Like, yeah. I hate to keep harping on it like this. We're like, I'm gonna leave it at this because I don't want to sound too mean. But his belly was sticking out his jersey.
But here's the thing, like we were saying, maybe everyone's going about the approach wrong, and we haven't found the right way to approach Zion about it. And the second thing about it is, Trey, we've talked about this with Luka to a different extent. He's not obviously the same, but we said, hey, Luka's got to get in better shape. Zion, when he's on the court, Trey, he still plays really well. I know
Oh,
he
he's
wasn't
phenomenal.
aggressive. I know he wasn't aggressive in the IST championship game, but
But
in
that was
general,
one
he does.
game.
But in general, oh, actually, speaking of that, wait, he just had 36 points last night as of recording this, right? So,
Yes.
I mean, don't you think a problem is that because he can play so well, like there's in his head, maybe he could justify it and just be like, well, it doesn't, I don't need to because look how well I'm playing. You know what I mean? Like,
No, no, no,
I
no.
think,
That's his main problem. Like, I don't know how to say it any better. Like, the dude can
yeah.
wake up, get out of bed, roll out of bed, and be an all-star. And that's a problem.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with Luca. Luca had the same thing too, where it's like, look, these guys aren't even in the greatest shape, but they're so good. Imagine when they realize. And, oh, sorry, we talked about this. Embiid. We had this conversation about Embiid,
We did,
right?
we did, we did.
And then Embiid was already a great player. He lost weight, became an MVP. No one talked about it because this guy doesn't talk a lot. Remember how heavy Jokic was early in his career, and then he slimmed down, right? And then he became even a greater player than what he was. So, like we've seen this situation happen with other guys. So you hope Zion gets to that point, right? But you're right. It is a tough situation right now. They've got to get it figured out because I don't even think they fit great on the court. Him and Ingram together anyway.
No,
Like
it's a clunky fit. Like, neither
right,
one of
right.
them are great spot up shooters. They both need the ball in their hand. Like, it just, and they're not like LeBron and D Wade, where like they both need the ball in their hand, but they're so great that they can just make it work.
Right. And also too, I mean, even LeBron and D Wade example. I mean, you got one guy that is as an all world playmaker in LeBron, and then you got a D Wade is probably one of the best guards ever of playing off the ball, which we didn't even know that existed with him because he was always on the ball. He became a great cutter, great in the post, right? He reinvented his game to do other things. The problem with Ingram and Zion is they're too early in their career. These guys are both still trying to establish themselves as like you know how the career arcs for these guys go. When you're younger, you're still trying to establish yourself as like one of these great guys and like establish your legacy and great player. By the time LeBron and D Wade got together, they had already had all this individual success. It was just about winning at that point. Same thing with Paul
Correct.
Pierce and Garnett and Ray Allen. They had already all the individual success. They didn't care about that anymore. Ingram and Zion, and rightly so, are guys that are still trying to make all-star teams and all NBA teams and like establish themselves as some of the best players in the league. It's hard to do that together. And then with their games, I think Brandon Ingram's a good playmaker. I think Zion's a good playmaker, but neither of them are a great playmaker. The Pelicans don't really have a real point guard. Their best guard is McCollum, who's just a scoring guard, and they're trying to play Zion in a way that he's trying to like be the point forward. Which I just think Zion's best. I think everyone we can all agree he should just be playing downhill and then figuring the rest out later, right? Like having him to have all these decisions to like figure out when he should just be getting downhill just doesn't make sense to me. Even when we're watching that game against the Lakers, I mean, you're watching Zion, and I know Trey, you're probably thinking the same thing. It's like, why does he keep just dribbling once or twice into the paint and then kicking it out? Like, just go attack. Like, just go attack. And you saw
That's
him
all I
attack.
wanted him to do. Just attack the basket.
Right, 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 exactly. So yeah, but the Zion thing, yeah, the Zion thing is definitely trending. But anyway, we got to get back to Halliburton trade because I want to get your thoughts on where do you think Halliburton is now? Because where I had him on my list, I got to do some revisions. You feel me? With,
Star.
with, with
Star.
Halliburton. But what's changed for you? Is it just with the in-season tournament, or maybe just how he's
No.
played all year? Like, give me your thoughts on that.
It's been all year. Like, his scoring ability, he's I think he's averaging almost 27 points per game. His ability to kick out when he gets into the paint, he's getting a lot of assists this year. Like, I generally did not know he was this good. Like, I didn't know he was this good at attacking the basket. I didn't know he was this good of a shooter. I didn't know he was this good a facilitator. Like, that's what's changed. I'm like, I don't know if I just missed it because you were in Indiana or you just took the leap. As we say, some players, they just take that leap in like year 3, year 4 into superstardom. But it looks like whatever it has, he's in that superstardom range. Whether or not I've just missed it or he took the leap, it doesn't matter. He's there now. And there's not one negative thing I can say about his game. Even his defense isn't bad for being an undersized guard.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, he's got length, so that does help, right? Like, so he's a bigger
And he has
guard.
quickness as well.
Yeah, he's quickness. I mean, he's still gonna be the liability out there, but he's got that Pacers team really fun and flying around, and they got shooters out there, and he's got. I think I like about Tyrese Halliburton. I think JJ Redick mentioned it. Guys want to play with him, right? Like that is such an underrated thing. And look, they're not going to get high profile free agents in Indiana, but if they can draft correctly and use some of their assets to maybe make a trade and get some guys around him and get like a legitimate, because I mean at this point they're a couple years away, they need like a legitimate second score. Um, they got a shot. Like they got a shot in that small market to make something happen. But he is definitely one of the more exciting guards in the league, and it's a real conversation, Trey, because De'Aaron Fox is killing it. I don't want to take anything away from him, but like it's a real conversation as far as which one of those guys you can have, would you'd rather have. And I hate to pit guys against each other, but it could really go either way. And I don't know if we would have thought that this time a year ago. So I got to give Tyrese Haliburton a lot of credit. But I like what the Pacers are doing. I like how they're rolling. We're gonna get later on. We're gonna do another pod about what we've been seeing about a quarter of the way through the NBA season. But we like the in-season tournament, Trey. I think we can both agree on that, right?
Oh yeah, no. Or resounding success.
Yeah, in-season tournaments gotta stay. Gotta stay. We gotta make some adjustments. That court, Trey, we gotta do something about the courts. The court was hurting my eyes. Court was hurting my eyes in Vegas. I don't know about you, but the court was not it. I know they got attention, but it wasn't it for me.
No, it wasn't it, but I understood why they did it, and I didn't have an issue with it. Like you have to let fans know that this is something different. And at the end of the day, whenever you turn on the ESPN or TNT, it didn't matter. You knew something was going on, even if you didn't know what it was. It got your attention at the very least.
Yeah, no, for sure. What got my attention was the headache I got from watching it. But yeah, I get your point. I get your point for sure. But yeah, we love the NCAA tournament and the basketball part going on or going forward. So hopefully they make some changes to it. But for the most part, we love it. Let's get to the NFL. I don't even want to talk about the Dolphins. I mean, that was just ridiculous. But Trey, you know what? Let's get to what everybody's been talking about, Trey. The greatest play we've ever seen that doesn't count. The lateral with Travis Kelce. We've talked about Kadarius Toney, Trey, ironically, on this podcast. First game of the season with the drops. And it rears its ugly head again. So let's just get it out the way first. We all know it was a penalty. Do you agree, Trey, that the penalty should have been called?
At first, I was kind of skeptical, but then when I saw the replay and the still images, you had to
How far
call it.
ahead he was?
Yeah, it was just like, like listen. I've never played wide receiver in football, but I'm like, I know something had to click with you to say, man, I'm really in front of this football. Like I'm really in front of this line of scrimmage. I really should back up. Like it was just so egregious.
Yeah, I
And
mean, the problem with the penalty was, I think the problem, Trey. I think the problem is because it's Kadarius Toney. It's because he's been a habitual line stepper, as we like to call it. Shout out Charlie Murphy. He has been a habitual line stepper. This has happened with him before, where he's lining up off sides. They're just not calling it, as they showed a couple clips. And then they've been putting more of an emphasis this year on calling the penalties with the offsides thing. And then, as we see most receivers, Trey, they usually do the thing where they go out to the line of scrimmage and then they kind of like point at the ref where they check to make sure they're straight. He didn't do that. But the part that's confusing to me is most of the time, Trey, when you see those receivers do that, they're usually like by the numbers, like really far away from the ball. He's like in the slot. He's like right next to the ball. I'm like, you got to see that you're that far ahead. And then let me just get this out off my chest, Trey.
go for it.
For the people that are saying, well, you shouldn't have called that at that point in the game. You shouldn't have called that, right? Like, let the players play. How was the referee supposed to know that that play was supposed to happen? Watch the game. He threw the flag right when the play started. So nobody would be complaining if that play was just an incomplete pass or was just an irrelevant football play. Just because the greatest thing you ever seen on a football field happened after the the flag was thrown doesn't mean the flag shouldn't have been thrown. What's the ref supposed to do? Oh, my bad. Travis Kelce lateraled it to Kadarius Toney in the greatest football play I've ever seen. Let me pick up the flag because you know what? I don't want to ruin from a magnificent play. No, that doesn't make any sense. So stop saying that.
And let me
People,
say this:
yeah, people
the
keep saying
head
that's
coach
ridiculous.
he didn't even contest it. Like he understood why they threw the flag. You didn't hear Andy Reid say anything negative about the refs in that situation.
Oh, I definitely heard him say it after the game, and that was another thing I was going to bring up. True, like, look, I try to give Mahomes, the benefit of that. He's a competitive guy. He kind of went after the refs a little bit too much, so I understand how he feels in the moment. But his frustration was not actually at the refs. I think his frustration, Trey, was finally at that moment kind of boiled all over from how he's felt all season with the lack of the production with the receivers and the mistakes, the drop passes by MVS, the drop passes by Sky Moore, the drop passes by Kadarius Toney lining up offside. It's just been a whole season of this thing, right? and they finally got a break in a typical Chiefs break, and this is what happens. And I think it kind of boiled over. But then to go after the game, Trey, and to be talking about, first of all, going up to Josh Allen and telling him like, "Oh, that flag was crappy." Like, I know that's his boy and they're cool, but like, if I'm Josh Allen, I'm like, "Bro, I'm not trying to hear all that." Second, to go to the podium and to be like, "Hey, I've never seen that called in my 7 years." You notice what Mahomes is not saying, and then Andy Reid going up there and also saying, "Well, they usually give him a warning, this and that." Guess what?
And that, but
Neither.
that's not complaining when he said that. I mean, he was just kind of stating the fact.
No, he's making an excuse for it because you know what? Neither of them got up there and said, yeah, he actually was offsides." Neither of them said that. Not one of them said that. Mahomes said, "Yeah, he probably was a little bit offsides, but," and of course we know what the word "but." Once you say something after the word "but," you're just negating everything you said before that. That's the rule with the word. So you just basically negated everything you said before that to make an excuse for it. Your guy lined up offsides. It sucks that it took away from a great play, but your guy shouldn't have lined up offsides. Your guy had plenty of opportunities all game to line up not offsides. He was right in front of the ball, staring at the ball. And like you said, Trey, when you saw the replay, the guy's almost like he's really far offsides. So I'm not mad at the play, but overall, the Chiefs got plenty of opportunities to win this game. And the Bills are trying to give the game away. I mean, McDermott not running the ball. I mean, there's just a million things that's happening. They could have won the game, but overall, the Chiefs didn't win the game. It's not the end of the world, but going forward, and we talked about this ironically week one, Trey. What are the Chiefs going to do with these receivers? Because is it just me, or it doesn't feel like the same way as last year where they didn't have as good of receivers, but it doesn't feel like it was this many mistakes.
No, 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 no. This is at this point the Chiefs are just stuck with what they have, and they just have to hope that the receivers get hot in the playoffs. Like that's it. The Chiefs, they kind of remind me, well, at least Patrick Mahomes, like what he's dealing with, it kind of reminds me of all the other great quarterbacks that we see where they've had years where they've had like not the best wide receiver, not the best tight end in the league. And Mahomes, to me, he's been kind of sheltered by Kelsey and also having Tyreek Hill. And not to say that he isn't or he wouldn't be successful without him. I think we saw that last year, but I think it's finally reaching that crux where it's just like finally even Patrick Mahomes doesn't have enough around him to make it work. And we saw that with Tom Brady. We saw how that failed him at the end when not having enough around him. And I think it's ultimately going to be the downfall of the Chiefs this year. Like I said, they just better hope and pray that they get hot in the playoffs.
And that's the thing. Even last year with the lack of receivers, I mean, yeah, at least had Juju Smith-Schuster, a receiver that at least was done some things in the NFL before, and guys are at least catching the ball, right? Like there's just the amount of drops that's been happening, and they're a lower scoring offensive output this year. So they're not winning games where they're dominating by offense anymore. It's by defense. And I just think their margin of error is smaller. So I don't know. I'm just not sure about them going forward. I mean, when you look around at the AFC, I mean, who's your team to beat? Like, if you're because the AFC's strong. I mean, you got the Ravens, you got the Chiefs, the Dolphins in there. Jacksonville's still hanging around. I mean, is there one clear team to beat? I mean, well, I know there's probably not
No,
one, but who was the team that you're like, this is the team to beat in the AFC if you had to pick one? Because we haven't even talked about the NFC yet, which we'll get there.
as crazy as it sounds, just from all the negative things I just said about the Chiefs, I still think they're the team to beat. I mean, you're talking about the reigning champions. You're talking about a team with Patrick Mahomes that has never had a road playoff game. So I think it's kind of like to be the best, you have to beat the best. And even though they're not at their best right now, they still have that cachet where I have enough respect for them to say that they're the team that you have to beat.
Chiefs and Ravens play right now for AFC Championship game. Who you got?
I got the Ravens, but I still think the Chiefs are the team you have to beat. I mean, those are two different questions.
But if you go out pick the Ravens, you picked
No, no,
first of
no.
all, you picked the no hesitation. So how are they not a team to beat?
I think they're the best team, but again, they're the reigning champions, so you still have to knock them off. And it's not like, oh, well, they got a fluke championship. No, like this team's been to what 3 Super Bowls in the last 5 years. Like they're that team. They have the best quarterback in the league and maybe the best head coach in the league. Like they're that team still. So like out of respect, I still say you have to beat them. But no, I don't think they're the best team in the AFC. No.
Okay, let's switch over to the NFC real quick. The Cowboys dominated the Eagles. Eagles have lost two straight. Obviously, they had a tough game with the 49ers as well. So two excellent teams that they played. Eagles seem like they're leaking oil a little bit, Trey. Do,
They
do you
do.
have any legitimate concerns, or is it just, hey, this is a tough part of the schedule? They're kind of banged up. Like, what is your overall thoughts? Because I've heard like both ways with the Eagles.
I'm a little bit concerned because I don't know if you knew, but Nick Bosa, I don't know if you heard his comments last week.
Did he? And
Yeah,
Mister, he has the book on Jalen Hurts. Yeah,
and not like it was just in the back of my head. But when I watched this Cowboys game this weekend, I was like, uh oh. No, we're talking about two of the teams that had like maybe the two top defenses in the league. So like we have to keep that
yeah,
in mind.
yeah.
But
It's easy to say that when you have Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons, which every team doesn't have. But
yeah,
yeah,
so it's easy to say it then, but it's still like a little bit concerned. Like, oh, did you guys get figured out? So I'll be honest with you. I'm a little bit concerned. I'm Jalen Hurts. He hasn't looked great much this year. Like I don't want to say he's regressed, but he just hasn't really looked like he did
he's got
last year.
that
Like
knee injury too, though. To be fair,
yeah, he has that nagging knee injury. I mean, that's a true concern, and I know some of the reports today. I don't know if you read any yet, but some of the players anonymously they're saying that the Eagles their offensive game plan is just too simple. They were talking about look at the routes they run, and they use AJ Green. Yeah, AJ was it AJ Brown?
AJ Brown. Yeah.
Yeah, AJ Brown. They use him for example, and they said look at his route tree is too basic. They are leaking oil, like you said. Like it's I don't know another way to put it. I think you said it correctly. They're leaking oil, and I'm a little concerned, man.
Okay, so I agree. Here's the thing with the Eagles. We don't talk about this enough, but they did lose both of their coordinators in the same offseason. So, both that's what happens when you have a great team. Usually you lose one coordinator, becomes a head coach, but Gannon is the head coach with the Cardinals now, and then of course Shane Steichen's doing well with the Colts. That's a lot to ask for a team to lose both coordinators. Then you got a banged up quarterback. The secondary does not look the same. Big play Slay and the corners don't look the same like they did last year. So you're probably right. They're probably not as creative on offense, and then they're banged up, and then defensively they're not playing as well. Here's the only thing I will say: Dallas Trey hasn't performed the same on the road. So if you're the Eagles, as long as you can get and win that division, and if you do play the Eagles or the Cowboys in the postseason, that means the Cowboys is going to have to go play Philly in Philly, or they're going to have to go play San Francisco and Santa Clara. And at this point, the Cowboys beat everybody at home, but they have not beaten those teams on the road. So I'm going with the NFC. I still think the 49ers are the best team in the conference when healthy. I actually do think this is the type of year where whichever one of those teams gets the number one seed is probably the team that's going to be able to win out because they're going to have home field advantage, and then they're also going to get that week off. So I mean that's how I'm feeling about the NFC. And can we agree it's basically a three-headed monster at this point? Do you see any other team in the
Oh
NFC
no,
actually? Okay, okay. I was just gonna say, is there anybody? Because I mean, I'm looking at the NFC South. No, right? Like maybe you'll get it. Yeah, I don't even know in the West there. Maybe I mean the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are kind
no,
of done.
no,
So
no, no, no.
yeah, yeah. So exact. What can I just name one sleeper though? I don't know if this team will get into the playoffs, but this can be a team if they do get into the playoffs. I can totally see it knocking off one of these teams in a playoff game. I kind of like Green Bay. I know it sounds crazy. They're not super healthy right now. They got to get Aaron Jones back and Alexander, but like I know Jordan Love didn't play as great on Monday night, but like if he can like have a Jordan Love game where he played well the last couple of weeks, they got a lot of weapons on the outside. Matt LaFleur is a good coach. I can see them like beating Dallas or like one of these teams in a one game scenario, or am I just way off on that?
I kind of see that, but my thing is Jordan Love doesn't have any playoff experience, and I
That's
think
true.
he's getting better as the year goes on. But I'm a firm believer in having playoff experience. I think playoffs is just a different beast,
That's true.
and I'll no, no, I just can't buy it just because of
You
that.
gotta see. You gotta one. That's one of those you gotta see it to believe it. I
Yeah,
get
I
you.
got
I
to see
mean,
it to believe it. Like I think, like you said, I think it's a three-headed race. I would have had the Lions earlier, but the Lions just starting to falter a little bit. So it's just the three. It's the
well,
Eagles, Cowboys, and the 49ers. That's about it.
well. Speaking of the Lions, yeah, they're another team that need to stay up in that dome as long as they can and play a team. Yeah, because let me tell you something. They go up to cold Philadelphia if they want to. It's gonna be a whole bunch of problems.
Oh no, no,
So
no. They go to Philadelphia. They're getting blown out.
yeah, but I mean, but if they can get in that dome though, for sure, and they can force one of those teams, because let's say like they win a division, they could be playing like the Cowboys in the first round at home. I mean, like they got a good shot. You know what I'm saying? Like they got a shot with that offensive line. So I forgot about the Lions too, but I don't know. Something about that Packers team. I know they lost to Danny DeVito or whatever his name is in the with the Giants, but I know yeah, boy. Let me tell you something. We talk about marketing with Shohei Ohtani. You talk about leaning into something.
Hey man, get
DeVito,
that money. Listen, you're a backup. You ain't never think you were gonna have the chance to start in NFL. Gonna get that money. Like make it marketable.
he's the New Jersey legend for life already.
Hey man, he's like Jeremy Lin. Like this is like Lin Sandy, but just for a white guy.
Yeah, for real. Like this is the perfect storm of like where you from and what you look like, and especially the New York Giants. So you know that. Listen, they ain't had no brothers at quarterback. I'm gonna just say that. Do your research. Google it. Google it. You want to? You go ahead. Everybody, listen to me. Name me the last time they had a brother at quarterback, and I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, I want to thank everybody so much for joining us once again. If this is your first time listening to the podcast, of course, give us a shout out, like, rate, do all the good stuff. We're on social media. We got a lot of content coming up for you. We're going to do a Christmas drop at some point, so tune in for that. We got something special for the holidays. We're going to talk about the NBA, a little bit more about the NBA, the quarter season report. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. So we got a lot of content. So stay up to date with us. Again, subscribe to it, put the notifications on, do what you got to do so you can see what we got going on. And on the way out, of course, I will swing it to Trey.
Hey man, again, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do love doing this. Again, like I always say, follow us on YouTube Shorts, Apple Podcast, Spotify. Like we're on all the major platforms. So we really do appreciate the support. And until next week, peace.